This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of the award-winning Adventures in Compliance, the podcast where we look at the Sherlock Holmes short stories, movies, novels, and related material from the angle of compliance. In this season, we're going to take up the novels of Arthur Conan Doyle around Sherlock Holmes. Of course, there are 4 of them: A Study in Scarlet, Hound of the Baskervilles, perhaps the most famous Sherlock Holmes story, The Sign of 4, and The Valley of Fear. We're going to take a deep dive into each one of these novels and going to explore them over 4 podcasts. So it'll be over the next 4 months that we'll be taking a deep dive into this season. The novels in many ways fill in the gaps about how and why and what Holmes does, and they're really a delicious deep dive exploration of Sherlock Holmes, his methods, his friendship with Watson, more of the backstory on Watson. And if you have the opportunity, they're relatively short, about 100 to 125 pages per novel. I would urge you to read these novels in their entirety. You can collect them in one work and do that. And I had a ton of fun reading them and preparing for this new season. There are some great stories in here, and I know you will enjoy them. And I hope you will enjoy this season of Adventures in Compliance really as much as I've enjoyed reading the stories. Listeners will recall we did The Sign of 4 in the month of June, and in the month of July we take up perhaps the most well-known Sherlock Holmes novel of all time, The Hound of the Baskervilles. In this introductory episode, we look at the storyline and some of the big picture issues for compliance professionals. Subsequently, we'll take a deep dive into some of the compliance issues involved. Timothy and Fiona return to look at The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into, well, a truly captivating world. Think classic mystery, ancient legends, and of course the sharpest mind in fiction, Sherlock Holmes. Our mission, like always, is to cut through the noise, give you that shortcut to being really well informed. We dig into the material you share with us and pull out the most important bits of knowledge and insight. And wow, what a source we have today. We are dissecting Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's, iconic The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A fantastic choice. It's got that perfect mix, doesn't it? Suspense, a touch of the supernatural.
Right, and all set against that incredibly eerie backdrop, the Devonshire moors. Just thinking about it gives me chills.
It does. And our source for this deep dive, it's not just a plot summary. It's pretty detailed, outlining the novel, but also specifically pointing out some key lessons we can take away from the story.
Exactly. So our journey today isn't just about retelling the story, though it is thrilling, and maybe many of you know it already. Instead, we really want to unpack the twists and turns, but connect them directly to those bigger, sort of timeless insights. Why does this classic still resonate? Why does it offer valuable perspectives for us, even now?
Okay, let's dive in then. That famous opening scene, Dr. James Mortimer coming to Holmes and Watson. What hits you first about how he presents the whole thing?
It's fascinating, isn't it, how it all starts. Dr. Mortimer shows up in London Baker Street with this completely bizarre story. So Charles Baskerville, dead. An expression of just pure terror on his face.
Right.
And next to him, these huge footprints of a hound.
Mm-hmm.
And Mortimer immediately jumps to this old family curse, this demonic hound out on the moors.
Yeah, the supernatural explanation is front and center right away.
Exactly. And what's so interesting, from an investigation point of view, is how quickly that explanation takes root.
And that's pure Holmes, isn't it?
Yeah.
She hears demonic hound and basically goes, oh, okay, interesting legend, but let's look at the facts.
Right.
He dismisses the supernatural instantly. But what hooks him, what really gets his attention, are the details around the fear. Things like Sir Charles genuinely believing in the curse, avoiding the moors at night. Witnesses saying he was visibly terrified leading up to his death.
Ah, okay. So it's not the curse itself, but the effect of the belief in the curse.
Precisely. It sets up this core tension right from the start. How fear, how superstition can just cloud everything, cloud rational thought, even before you have solid proof. It's a masterclass in showing how belief shapes how we see things.
That really sets the tone perfectly. And then things escalate pretty quickly, don't they? The heir, Sir Henry Baskerville, arrives from Canada.
The next potential victim, really.
And he's barely set foot in London before bam, a warning. A cryptic note telling him to stay away from the moor.
And then that weird incident with his boots.
Oh, yeah. His new boots go missing from his hotel room, then an old one. Feels kind of small, almost trivial, but what's the significance there?
Well, they seem small, but they're actually critical clues, aren't they? They immediately signal real, immediate danger for Sir Henry. And maybe more importantly for us, thinking about the mystery, they strongly suggest there's a human element here. A human plan lurking beneath the ghost story.
Ah, okay, so it's not just random spookiness.
Not at all. Something tangible, something malicious is happening right from the get-go. It teaches you, look for the patterns, even in things that seem unrelated.
So Sir Henry's clearly in danger. Holmes can't go himself, so he sends Watson down to Baskerville Hall with him. And he gives Watson very specific instructions.
Right, report everything, meticulously, every detail, no matter how small.
And Watson gets there, and wow, the moor. It really does become almost a character in its own right, doesn't it? That desolation, the eerie beauty, it adds so much.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a setting, it's an active force in the story.
Yeah.
And Watson, he does a fantastic job. His observations are so diligent, and it really shows the power of careful, unbiased reporting.
He runs into suspicious stuff almost immediately with the servants, Barrymore and his wife.
Sees Barrymore signaling someone out on the moor late at night. Very suspicious.
Which turns out to be.
Barrymore helping his brother-in-law, Selden, who's an escaped convict hiding out there.
Right. And what's crucial, I think, is how Watson handles that. He's suspicious at first, obviously.
Sure, murder suspect.
But once he figures out the motive is just family loyalty, helping Selden survive, he clears Barrymore, mentally at least, of the murder.
Yeah, that shows real investigative depth. Looking beyond the surface, considering the human reasons behind actions, it's not just about spotting clues, it's about understanding people.
And of course, while he's doing all this diligent work, he also spots that mysterious figure out on the Spucky doors. Another piece of the puzzle.
Another piece, exactly, which Watson himself doesn't understand yet.
Right. And speaking of puzzling figures and careful observation, Watson's attention also turns to the neighbors. Jack Stapleton, the naturalist, and his sister, Beryl.
Ah, the Stapletons, yes.
Watson notices Jack's behavior is, well, erratic, sometimes friendly, sometimes weirdly intense. And Beryl seems genuinely afraid, and she even tries to warn Sir Henry, doesn't she, in a sort of veiled way.
She does, yes. Quite desperately, it seems.
And then Sir Henry starts falling for Beryl.
Which makes Jack visibly jealous and angry. So you've got this whole tangled human drama playing out against the backdrop of the supposed curse. Very complicated.
This is where things really take a sharp turn, isn't it? And where Holmes's unique methods come into play.
Yes, because the big reveal, the twist that Watson and, us as readers don't see coming, is that mysterious figure Watson saw.
It was Holmes.
It was Holmes all along. He was there, secretly doing his own investigation in parallel. Genius move.
Sherlock Holmes.
And he's the one who figures it out. He reveals the absolutely shocking truth. Jack Stapleton, the harmless butterfly collector. He's the villain, the mastermind.
And his real identity.
Turns out he's actually a Baskerville himself, a relative, Roger Baskerville's son, who was thought lost.
Yeah.
So if Sir Henry dies...
Stapleton inherits everything. The estate, the title, the money.
Exactly. The motive. And the other bombshell. Beryl isn't his sister.
He's his wife.
She's his wife. Forced to play the part of his sister. Her warnings to Sir Henry weren't just neighborly concern. They came from her own fear, her own compassion, trapped in this horrible situation. She was being abused and controlled by him.
Wow, that just reframes everything about her character.
Completely. And Holmes then just lays out Stapleton's whole meticulous, chilling plan.
How he tracked Sir Henry right from the moment he arrived in London.
Stole the boots specifically to give his huge, savage hound Sir Henry scent.
The Hound wasn't supernatural at all, just a real starved dog.
A real dog made terrifying. And Stapleton used the legend, the local superstition, the phosphorus paint, all of it as a smokescreen. A way to mask plain old murder.
It's such a powerful example of how someone can twist existing beliefs, exploit people's fears.
Absolutely. That legend of the Hound was the perfect cover for his very human, very greedy, and incredibly cruel intentions. It's a stark lesson in deception.
Which all leads up to that absolutely terrifying climax. Holmes and Watson know what's happening, so they set a trap.
Using Sir Henry as bait, walking home across the moor at night.
You can just imagine the tension, waiting, knowing the Hound is coming.
And then it does. Stapleton unleashes it, this huge, monstrous thing, glowing eerily with a phosphorus, lunging straight for Sir Henry.
Horrifying.
Truly. Designed to cause maximum terror, maybe even scare Sir Henry to death like Sir Charles. But, of course,
Holmes and Watson are ready.
they jump out, guns blazing, shoot the Hound, kill it, save Sir Henry just in the nick of time.
And Stapleton.
He realizes the game is up. He runs, flees into the darkness, heading for his hiding place in the middle of the great Grimpen Mire.
That treacherous swamp.
And he never comes out. Presumed swallowed by the mire, consumed by the very landscape he tried to use as a weapon. A fitting end, in a way.
And Beryl, she provides the final pieces, right?
Yes, when she's safe, rescued from Stapleton's control, he'd actually tied her up. She tells them everything.
Yeah.
Confirms all the details, seals the case against her husband.
So, back in London, 221B Baker Street, Holmes does his final wrap-up, explains everything.
Ties up all the loose ends, yeah.
And it's such a powerful moment, isn't it? It just reinforces how his logic, his rational approach, completely dismantled the superstition and the fear. It's like the ultimate proof of his method. Stick to the facts, use reason, and the truth will come out no matter how terrifying things seem at first.
Absolutely. And that really hammers home one of the story's biggest themes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The real danger of letting fear and superstition just take over. Letting them override clear thinking.
It's a huge warning about needing critical thinking, questioning assumptions, especially when something feels overwhelming or scary.
Exactly. But, you know, we talk about Holmes's logic, his genius,
Yeah.
but we absolutely cannot forget Watson's role in all this.
Oh, definitely not. He was crucial.
Absolutely critical. His sharp observations out there on the moor, his meticulous notes he sent back to Holmes, his sheer dedication, his bravery, it was all completely instrumental.
He wasn't just tagging along, writing things down.
Not at all. He was an active participant, an indispensable partner. It shows you don't need to be the genius to make a huge contribution. Diligence, observation, courage, those are powerful tools too.
So, okay, let's pull back now from the story itself. Let's talk about those enduring insights. What does the Hound of the Baskervilles really offer us today? This is where it gets, like you said, really interesting.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few key takeaways. First, there's the whole lesson in investigative acumen. You know,
Noni.
the importance of separating fact from folklore, sticking to evidence, the power of just really meticulous observation and gathering data. Holmes is the master, but Watson shows it too.
Right, like don't get swept away by the scary story, look at the actual details. That's applicable way beyond detective work, isn't it?
Oh, totally. In business, science, just everyday life. And then there's the deep dive into deception and human motivation.
Stapleton's manipulation.
Exactly. How a clever villain can exploit what people already believe, what they already fear, like the Hound legend, to hide what they're really doing.
It's a pretty chilling look at how twisted people can be, driven by greed. Makes you think about how easily narratives can be manipulated, even today.
Which leads right into the next point. The peril of unquestioned belief.
Believing the curse without question.
Yeah. The story is just such a strong reminder that we need critical thinking. We need to challenge assumptions, especially when something seems huge or terrifying or just widely accepted. Our first reaction shouldn't just be to believe it. It should be to question, to investigate, like Holmes.
Don't accept the legend at face value.
Exactly. And finally, I think there's a really important insight about the strength of collaboration.
Holmes and Watson working together.
Right. I mean, even though Holmes did his secret solo investigation thing for a while.
Which was maybe a bit dramatic.
Maybe a bit. But ultimately, it was the combination. Their combined efforts, their different strengths complementing each other. That's what solved the case.
Holmes's logic, Watson's groundwork and bravery.
Precisely. It just underscores how valuable different perspectives are. Teamwork, even between very different people, gets the job done. Even the greatest minds need collaborators.
So quite a journey we've taken through the creepy moors, unraveling this really intricate deception.
Yeah, from the legend of the Hound to the reality of human greed. And uncovering these powerful lessons along the way, the need for investigation, the triumph of reason over terror.
So as you, our listener, go about your day, maybe think about what you can take away from this classic story. Perhaps it's just a renewed appreciation for, rational thought in a world that often feels like it's drowning in information and, frankly, emotion.
Or maybe it's developing a sharper eye for those little clues, the details hidden in plain sight around you.
Could be.
And maybe that leads us to our final thought for you to chew on. Something to consider. In your own life, What are the legends? What are the unexamined assumptions? The things you take for granted that might actually benefit from a little dose of Holmesian logic. A thorough, fact-based investigation.
Interesting question to leave folks with. What are your personal Grimpen Myers of unquestioned belief?
This is Tom Fox again. Hope you've enjoyed Timothy and Fiona's introduction to the most famous Sherlock Holmes novel, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I hope you'll join us throughout the month of July as we explore compliance lessons learned, investigative lessons, organizational culture, ethics, and a wide variety of other topics that we explore through the prism of The Hound of the Baskervilles. Timothy and Fiona are both AI-generated voices, and this is the first podcast where I've used AI-generated voices. If you have any comments on using them one way or the other, I'd love to hear from you, so you can email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com about the use of AI in podcasting. The award-winning podcast Adventures in Compliance is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Would you like to start a podcast? In 2025, I think it would be a great time for you to start a podcast, and you can post it on the Compliance Podcast Network, the only podcast network in compliance and by far one of the most popular B2B podcast network around. So if you'd like more information on starting a podcast, please give me a shout. You can reach me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I hope that you will join me again next week where we take another look at the sign of 4. One of the things that I think is so instructive about Holmes is how his methods from the late 19th and early 20th century in the novels of Arthur Conan Doyle are still relevant today, and they're still relevant for the compliance professional in many of the skill sets that we all need to have an effective compliance program. So sit back and enjoy the sign of 4.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day. One actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network, available wherever you listen to podcasts.